All right. Welcome back to JKMoto Podcast, which is a weekly motorcycle podcast for the everyday rider, covering current bike and racing news and specializing in track days, club racing, and great entertainment. We truly do it all. This week, we are brought to you once again by Working Class Customs, which is a custom fabrication shop out of northern Utah, and you can direct any further questions on that to Kohl.
And I'm Kohl.
I'm Easton, and we are your two favorite hosts of your favorite weekly motorcycle podcast.
Oh, how are you, Easton?
I'm doing pretty good. Pretty good. It's been a week. How are you doing?
It's been a freaking week.
Yeah. I've heard some of the tales of your week. I don't know if we'll get into those tonight, but
Well,
yeah.
we'll get into some of those. It's been a week. It's the longest short week I've ever had in my life, I think. You know, not getting a lot of sleep for reasons I'll mention later, but it's kind of normal for me anyway, right?
Yeah. At least as long as I've known you. Well, hey, to put our weeks aside, it's been a pretty big week
It's been a
in just
huge week.
everything. So
we're going to get into all this stuff, but we had Moto America. Since we talked on here last time, there's been a MotoGP race. There's been silly season things going on. There's a TT race. The TT race.
Yes. Yeah, I was going to say not just
the TT race happened.
Indeed.
I've been at multiple tracks. Oh, I forget. We talked about that one. I've been to another track since we talked last.
Okay.
And I learned some valuable life lessons. And at my age, that's saying something. When you learn a new life lesson, that's saying something.
And all that and more to come after this great intro.
Hit the intro.
Yesterday at one point, I was in sixth. Miles an hour.
Are we back from break yet?
We are back from the break.
We are back
from the break. And before I let you dig into MotoGP and Moto America and silly season and Kohl's adventurous week, we got to talk about this week's weekly riding tip because it is a good one.
Well, don't leave us in suspense. Clickety clack over there. Let's have it.
Okay, all right. Hang up. I'm pulling it up. I was hoping you had something to say, but all right. This week's weekly riding tip brought to you once again by Bettinger Motorsports, which is private coaching to build solid riders through vision-based training. This week's weekly riding tip is foot placement.
Oh,
foot placement. So this is important, even I think off the racetrack. We'll dig into it a little more after I read it, but I just want everyone to know, like, even if you don't ride on the track, this still definitely applies. So ride with the balls of your feet on the end of the peg with a slight gap between the inside of your boot and the bike. This allows you to pivot your heel upward, initiating hip rotation, which leads to good core and shoulder rotation. Secondly, this allows us to communicate with the motorcycle. You ever stepped on a Lego or a piece of gravel with bare feet? That hurts. It hurts bad. Even if it's on carpet, man, the Legos on carpet, that's still just not good. Anyway, that's because the ball of our feet is very sensitive with lots of nerve endings in that area. So riding on the ball allows us to feel what the motorcycle is telling us through the foot pegs. It also makes weighting the peg to steer the bike easier. And some advanced riders switch their outer foot to a ducked out position, which allows more leverage to lock them onto the bike. That's a personal preference, has some advantages, but is also another motion and variable to think about in an already complicated sport. So that's this week's riding tip. Foot placement. I know, like, foot placement is crucial. I've seen pictures of myself before where, actually not even just pictures, but there was one time I dipped down in a corner, right-hand corner, and I've got a bad habit of being, like, not locked in on that inside peg, but definitely not on the ball of my foot, and having that toe scrape before the knee does, if that makes sense.
That's kind of a different subject, but I go through toe sliders.
Due to foot placement?
Well, I think, like I said, that's kind of a different subject. But one of these next testing tunes I do, I'm gonna try going up with the rear sets,
Okay.
even though I don't find it as comfortable on the track. But I'm trying to increase my flexibility.
Mm-hmm.
But I think I need to go up because even when I have my big old water ski feet all the way on the peg, balls of the feet, what I believe to be the proper placement, it is still quite easy for me to touch a toe on the ground.
Right.
So maybe if I raise them a little bit, but yeah, foot placement is. I mean, there's a lot of levels to that. Obviously, I agree with
Absolutely.
everything Josh is saying about being on the. I think I got that. I think I got my feet where they need to be, as far as the ball of my foot where it should be on the peg.
Mm-hmm.
That being said, maybe my entire peg is not in the right location.
Yeah, I mean that's kind of like the other side of it. I like to think of foot position as like body position in general is the attack position, if you will. If you're riding a motorcycle on a racetrack, especially for racing, you're not out there to be nice and relaxed and Sunday cruising. And so your whole position should be at all times the attack position, as I like to call it, which is the balls of your feet, weight off your hands, but your hands are ready to move, core is engaged, whatever else you want to call it. And as Josh mentioned, having that weight on the balls of your feet really puts you're not just sitting there, you're there and you can transfer weight to one side, the other, whatever. The part of the end that he mentioned, which is something I've never quite actually tried because of what he mentioned, which I like a lot, which is moving your outside foot heel locked up, right? And kind of locking your outside foot up. I've never even tried that because I've never had the time to think about, where my hands are, where my head's looking, what my throttle hand is doing, what my brake is doing, what gear I'm in, what my feet are doing, and lastly, can I get that outside foot to move forward? It's always been at the bottom of my list. I haven't gotten everything else nailed down yet, so I've never gotten there. So I appreciate that from Josh, kind of, recognizing that's more maybe along the advanced riders area. I don't know how you feel about that, Kohl, but
Well, I like what he said at the end of that. At the very end of that quote,
mm-hmm.
you said, and maybe if you still got it in front of you, maybe you can read it again. But the already complicated sport of motorcycle riding.
Yeah. Set another motion and variable to think about in an already complicated sport.
Yes, it's a lot more complicated than people realize. A pet peeve of mine has always been not to switch over to cars, but a pet peeve of mine has always been everybody either has an uncle or a sister or brother or mother or themselves that has a 10-second car in their garage or
Mm-hmm.
my Honda Civic makes 800 horsepower,
Yeah.
whatever. Great. Awesome.
Yep.
But when you're at the track, it's a great equalizer. But when you're not at the track and you're just talking about motorcycles, there's always that guy.
Mm-hmm.
There's always that guy that could smoke you in a second. And he's driving his R3 and, whatever. It's usually a Gixxer guy, actually, isn't it? Let's be honest.
No, never. What are you talking about?
But there's a lot more that goes into the sport than most people give it credit. Most people stop at, if they're not actually interested in it, they just think these are insane people that are flying around a track because they're insane.
Mm-hmm.
And then you got the casual observers that are like, I could do that. Give me a half hour.
Yeah.
But it's much more complicated than that, as we both know.
Yep, I agree with that. I definitely have met both people. The people that are like, no freaking way you've ever drug a knee on the ground, man. That's like only the stuff of freaking legends. I'm like,
Right.
no, I've done it. Not to the same level. I haven't drug a shoulder, Jorge Martin, but I got in a knee on the ground more than once. And then the other people that are like, well, yeah, I mean, I do that on my roundabout every day on my way to work. So it's not a big deal, bro. But
Well, hey, I've got a personal rider tip I want to throw in, but I really think it's going to be a longer story. So maybe you should move this thing right into fantasy, and there may or may not be a reason that I'm excited to talk fantasy finally.
All right. Well, before we move to fantasy, I got to thank Josh once again for a rider tip this week.
Yeah, thanks, Josh.
And let you guys know There is a link down in the description. Go check him out. Go ride with Josh. He does some good training down there, cross training, private coaching, simulator development. He's got some awesome technology down there at MSRH where he's based out of. And he operates with RideSmart throughout all of Texas. So go check him out. I don't know. Are you sure you want to talk about fantasy? We can just kind of,
I mean, we don't have to,
it's
but
been a week. We could probably just breeze past it. Not a big deal.
yeah, yeah. Go ahead. Go ahead. You know,
All right.
I finally tried to do something.
So one, I just got to put out there for all our listeners. We thank you guys for listening. We love you guys. We love our fans. We love meeting you in person. Jeff Tate, saw you a couple weeks ago. I know I mentioned you, I think last week or maybe the week before, but it was great to see you out of Moto America. Wish you any, best of luck throughout the rest of the season. Thanks for coming up, saying hi. It means a lot to us. With that being said, our schedule's always changing. We try and have our episodes out every Wednesday. I think we've been pretty good about that, but we don't always film them on the same night of the week. So this week, due to some scheduled things that were happening, Kohl had some stuff going on, maybe or maybe not motorcycle related. We'll get into that, maybe. So because of that, we filmed prior to the MotoGP race and Moto America race and the silly season happenings that have happened. So we get to bring it to you a week late, arguably, but we get to talk about all the things that have happened since we filmed, which is quite a bit compared to what we would normally get. So anyway, that being said, this week's fantasy winner for the week, drum roll please, at a whopping 199.50 points for the week, still down in 14th place, is none other than Working Class, also known as Kohl Burmester, your boy over here, co-host of JKMoto podcast himself, finally threw a boost on and kicked us all to the curb. So
Yeah, booyah! Send me a prize.
yeah, hit us up on Instagram at JKMoto podcast. We'll get you your prize sent over. So anyway, he finally did it. I'm curious to see what happens in 2 weeks from now. Who can fight back? And no offense, Cole, but you're still. I mean, dude, I personally I'm worried. I dropped. I was sitting in like fifth, sixth, kind of chilling. I'm down in 10th now. Top three are still, I think, the same. Yeah, Team Thor, Abellino Goosey, which you won a few weeks ago and never reached out to us.
FYI.
Just so you know, I don't know if you'd like just entered every single league there was, whatever. And then Duke is holding up third. But yeah, everyone else kind of, we had some pretty big changes. So anyway, yeah, Working Class Customs, reach out to us. Or sorry, just Working Class. Reach out to us and we'll get you your prize. But that is this week's fantasy. I don't know if that leads us straight into where you want to start, or I don't even know where you want to start. But
man, there's a lot. Let's start with MotoGP. Let's start with the MotoGP race. And I would say the MotoGP race, we can't always say they're all the best, right? We decided a while back that you can't just say, this is the race to watch.
Yeah.
And I assure everybody that this is not the race to watch.
I agree. It's not that bad.
I mean, I wouldn't have missed it. I wouldn't have missed it for the world, but
I would have missed it for the world, personally.
in the grand scheme of things, the sprint was much better than the race.
Mm-hmm.
The race was a bit of a snooze fest, and it happened a whole week ago. So I don't know how much we even got to talk about it.
Yeah, so we were in Italy, which was important. The Ducatis came out on Sunday in blue, which was kind of cool, kind of weird. I think last year they were yellow, which didn't make any sense. This year, blue, which isn't in the Italian flag, isn't in the Ducati colors. Boise State football team? Question mark? I don't know.
If they would have done yellow, Jesse James wouldn't have painted the bikes for him. Not that he does normally. Bear with me. Jesse James don't make no yellow bikes.
Okay. Anyway, a little confusing, but the blue is cool. It was cool to see something different there. The Italians did well at the Italian track.
It actually was a little hard. You had Bastianini back there, hanging around third, fourth, ending up in second. Every time I would look at the screen, I was thinking, you're looking for a red bike, and they kept saying Bastianini's up there, and it was easy to keep track of Pecco because he was in the front. But when they would say Bastianini's in third or whatever, and I'll be looking at the track thinking, that was a Pramac bike from last year, or it was a
Yeah. Yeah,
it,
that ain't no Ducati factory bike. Uh-uh.
yeah, they look kind of, especially from the front, because they had a lot of white on the front. From the
Yeah.
sides, it was
Well, and it was only for race day. Like they didn't do it the whole weekend. It wasn't there in the sprint. That was a little weird to me. Like I get it. There's still some sacredness to Sunday and racing, if you will, but I don't know. Kind of weirds me out. I'm pulling up the results just to make sure because it has been a week. The race, what do you know it? 4 Ducatis in the first 4 spots, and the first 2 were Italian, and the next 2 were Spanish.
weird.
Yeah. I will say, the race was interesting. There was some excuses being made. There was some passing here and there. There was a lot of just sitting around and waiting, which is what has kind of happened in MotoGP in general, I think, with the sprint. And not that the race has changed, but that we have all gotten used to the sprints, and that has caused the races to feel kind of boring in the medium, right? Like you get to the meat and cheese part of the sandwich, and it's just like, all right, well, we know what this is. We gotta get through it before we get back to the bread.
Yeah, it was. It's kind of changed my feeling as well. I mean, to be honest, and I hate to say it, but let me make a Moto America comparison.
Mm-hmm.
This year really hasn't been the case, but in years gone by, if Jake Gagne finishes first, Cam Peterson finishes second on Saturday,
Mm-hmm.
I can almost assume it's going to be the same on Sunday.
Right.
And it kind of takes some fire out of, because they have all the qualifying. They're trying to figure out who's good there, who's not. But Saturday and Sunday results tend to be the same. And I think
Yep.
we're seeing that for the most part in the sprint versus the full length race. We know who's going to be hot, and it takes
Yeah,
a little
definitely.
yeah takes a little bit away from the race day.
Yeah, I feel that because the only real difference is you change your tire choice and you worry about tire conservation. But what it feels like is that just makes the intermediate 10 laps just all right. We're all just gonna sit here and hold our place for a while,
Right.
and so there's not a whole lot going on in there. So yeah, I get what you're saying, 100%. I will say that this week was started off a little interesting. Jorge Martin made a first ever, I believe. Correct me if I'm wrong, Kohl, but first ever sprint Saturday mistake from the Saturday King himself, Jorge Martin.
Second, they were listing his stats,
Mm-hmm.
and he's basically either won or been on the podium for most every race. But he did have one crash last year in a sprint.
Okay. All right. I thought, for some reason, I thought it was the first ever, but either way, first one this season for sure. First one in a while, and he wrecked out completely. Had a DNF on the sprint, which is a bummer for Jorge. We talk about how much it sucks, but it puts you in this weird place because if you're not a Jorge fan, you're like, is bringing the championship tighter, and that's exactly what it did. And then the robot himself definitely performed this weekend. Gave his home crowd exactly what they wanted to see, which was a win and a win from both the sprint and the race. And then Enea, I guess, decided to show up and
Well, and that race result also continued to bring the points closer,
yep,
and they're actually remarkably close for what they are.
yep, yeah, absolutely. We're sitting. Hang on, I got it. 171 for Jorge Martin in first place, which he's
The
sitting
Aprilia
pretty
rider,
good.
right?
Say what?
The Aprilia rider, right?
We're not there yet,
Oh,
Cole. That's a
sorry,
secret.
sorry,
Shh.
sorry.
Don't tell anyone. No one knows yet.
Man,
Spoiler.
you were under a rock if you didn't know that by now. But go ahead.
Anyway, he's sitting at 171. Pecco Bagnaia is coming in at 153, and Mark Marquez at 136. Not too far behind that is Enea down at 114. Pedro at 101 and Maverick at 100, and that's your top 6. And I only include Maverick in there because he is only 1 point behind Pedro. So let's see, 171 minus 153 is 18. Down to 136 is, I don't really know, 17. And then a good bit, 22 down to fourth, and another 13 down to fifth. So not a terrible spread. We're sitting I don't even know actually how many races into the season we are. Let's see. Hang on. Sorry. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. So 7 races in. Has it really been 7?
I thought I was at 6, but hey.
Qatar, Portugal, 2, America's 3, Spain, 4, France, 5, Catalonia, 6, Italy makes 7. So yeah, we're 7 races in. The split is not that bad. We got another 2 weeks before we get out to France. Assen. Where is Assen? I don't even know.
Geography lesson. You look it up while I say.
It's not France.
No, there's only one race in France. So if you think back to the last 2 years, we've had 2 pretty close title championships at the end. The last 2 years that
Yeah.
spoiled us a little bit.
Yeah.
Don't quote me on exact numbers here, but the last 2 years at the midpoint, there's been an 80-point gap. So we're not to the midpoint yet, but
Right.
it's looking to be closer at the middle than it has been the last couple of years. And we've had some great championships down to the wire the last 2 years. So high hopes still.
Yeah, so you're calling it even more exciting than last year where it was literally down to the last race of the season.
So can we get to the next part? Because I can't say the next thing without the next thing. And everybody knows.
Okay, everyone knows. Anyway, it was a great race weekend in Italy. Nothing crazy to watch.
But no, what I mean is the Jorge Martin thing. Everybody knows by now.
Yeah, hang on. I gotta close up MotoGP racing.
But it's relative to the conversation right now.
Okay, all right. Yeah, sure. Throw it in. All right, Cole. What do you got? What did Jorge Martin do this week?
Jorge Martin said, "Screw you guys. I'm pissed off." And he needs to be. He should be. I agree with his attitude. He has now taken Aleix Asparagus' spot on the Aprilia.
Maybe. Could have been Mavericks. You never know.
It's not. It's Aleix.
Maybe.
They've already said that.
Yeah, but
Maverick might still get cut, but I'm just saying. But so he's taking that bike, and the reason that's important to that question is now. I mean, I don't want to be that guy. I don't want to be on that team. But people are going to start saying it. Does Ducati start pulling toys back from him? He's went to Aprilia now. Did he just screw his championship hopes? They're not going to give him a bike. They're going to not share data. They're going to start screwing with him. That's what some people are going to say. If he starts struggling now, they're going to say they took care of Pecco because he's their long-term rider.
Yeah. All right. So this is the big news for the week. Luckily we, like I said, we filmed a little early. Episode came out on Wednesday, and we got to watch this whole kind of silly season fiasco take off, and we get to bring it to you guys this week with our opinions on it. And Cole and I have not talked backstage about this yet, so you're hearing all this live. So a couple things to note. One, Jorge Martin low-key already had he had signed contract prior to the Italian race with factory Ducati. That contract said something along the lines of, you've got the seat, we're proud to give it to you, have a great day, unless Marc Marquez wins the championship this year, in which case we're going to renegotiate and you're going to be out. That was all fine and dandy. Jorge Martin's like, cool, no way he's got that. I'm beating him in every race. I've got the better bike. I'm the better rider. I've got it, right? No big deal. Cool. I agree with him. Probably no big deal. Then the press conference comes around. At this point, Ducati's sitting here like, yeah, man, we're chilling. We got Jorge Martin moving up to the factory team. Marc Marquez wants a factory bike. That's fine. We'll move him over to Pramac. He'll be happy with that. We'll give him a next year's bike. Who knows what'll happen next year? We'll figure that out when it comes. Show up to the press conference. Someone's like, hey, Marc, how do you feel about a Pramac? Marc's like, that sounds stupid. Why would I move from one satellite team to another satellite team?
Pramac is not for me, he said.
Yeah, Pramac's not for me. I already took a pay cut coming here. I just wanted to see what a Ducati was like. It was sweet. Get me on a factory bike on the factory team or I'm out, right? So now Ducati's kind of running circles around themselves saying, whoa, hold up. We thought Marc was going to be cool with this. Who made that call? Insert in the background, very, very important money bringer. And this is one thing that a lot of people don't realize, and I hate to bring it up on a podcast that's all about motorcycle racing and and motorsport and racing and fuel and fire and all that I desire, whatever it might be.
Metallica.
But
Sorry.
the truth of it is that a lot of these big time decisions that are made behind the scenes are made based off of money, and not the money that you have, but the money that you can make. And so you're going to bring in a rider that can make you money, right? Generally, that does correlate to a rider that can win, because the more you win, the more camera time you get, the better you are. Blah 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 blah. Sponsors are happy, money is made. Now, at the beginning of the season, what I want to point out is that Marc Marquez came over to Ducati. He had almost no sponsors because he was coming from a factory ride. He started bringing in sponsors. Do you remember Kohl? What one of those sponsors was? He happened to get a free gift from them.
Red Bull.
Nope, bigger than that. Smaller, but bigger.
Repsol.
Nope, they're still with Honda.
Grin and Barrett.
No, strike three. You're out. It was Audi, the big car manufacturer that happens to also own Ducati. Crazy, right? They literally handed him and his little brother brand new cars, each of them individually. I will admit that Marc Marquez's car was much cooler, much faster, much better than Alex Marquez's, but they were like, "Oh, we feel bad. Here's a car for you, Alex."
As it should be. What they
Anyway,
give him, an Audi Rabbit?
so they gave him an Audi, right? Mark is sponsored by Audi. Little did I know, up until a couple days ago, Audi owns Ducati, and was actually a pretty big push in the decision of signing Marc Marquez on that factory team. So that's all I wanted to get out there. Realize there's a little bit more money behind the scenes than what you should think. Also, I mean, Marc Marquez has been alluding to, I have a plan, I'm clever, all these different things. Obviously, kind of shakes the rug a little bit when he says, "No, I ain't taking no satellite bike." Jorge Martin alluded earlier in the year that if he didn't get a Ducati factory, he was done. He was out. So when he made the announcement that he was going to Aprilia, I was surprised, but I wasn't super surprised from the Jorge side. I was more surprised that Ducati said, "Yeah, you're not getting it." Does that make sense?
Yeah. The other part I was surprised about, though, is you think of the timing. Aprilia was writing that contract while he was still racing on Sunday.
Well, I'm wondering
for that thing to come out on Monday, his people were talking to their people.
Oh, I almost guarantee that contract's been around since the beginning of the year. It got finalized once Aleix said, "Hey, I'm out of here," and it's just been waiting in case Jorge decided to go that way. So, but that is the big news for this week, I would say, and probably for the rest of the season, to be honest. The only other question is, where's Bastianini going? Which sounds like I've seen a rumor that he already signed for Gas.
I went looking for that earlier today, so that we had that for this show, and I found a couple places that say what we're both thinking, but there's no confirmation, so I don't know. The rumor is he's going to Tech 3.
Yep.
KTM.
Yep.
But I've also heard some rumors that the Gas name is going away. It's going to be 4 KTM bikes on the grid.
Okay.
And again, unsubstantiated rumor. That's just some things I've been hearing. I don't know what the point would be there, but probably because the media refuses to call the gas gases. Have you noticed that?
Yeah.
No matter what you're on, they're like, Pedro on the KTM. No, it's actually the gas. We all know they're the same bike, but they're trying to advertise. So the professional thing to do would be to refer to it as a gas.
Yeah. But I don't know. When are we getting a Husqvarna in there, man?
I think they were trying. I mean, so there's 2 open spots still on the grid for BMW. We all know that. But those 2 open spots, KTM was trying to get them before the year started. And the rumor there was they were going to put 2 Husqvarnas. So they would have 6 bikes, 2 of each flavor.
Right.
But keep in mind, they also are part owners of MV Agusta at this point, I believe. And MV Agusta is now sharing dealerships with KTM in the United States so that they have more coverage. But out of all of those bikes, MV Agusta is the only one that makes a attainable sport bike.
As of right now,
attainable-ish.
We have seen the zebra hitting the track. She's coming.
Yeah, but is that going to be another limited? I got to get on the internet and hope that my lottery number gets pulled so that I can even buy one.
I don't know. Maybe it didn't seem like it at the time, but we're not We don't really need to dive into that. If you don't know what zebra bike we're talking about, we'll flash a picture of it for you real quick. RC8R, I think is what it was. Maybe
9. Is it a
9.
9 now?
It could be, yeah. Anyway, there was a KTM out there that hit the racetrack for testing, and they had it in the cool black and white. No one can tell what it looks like, which is really weird for a motorcycle, especially for like a street motorcycle. To me, I'm like, okay. But I do wonder, if they're not out there kind of testing some stuff, saying like, yeah, hey, we're gonna give you this street motorcycle. Is that to start testing for MotoGP? That doesn't make any sense. MotoGP is supposed to test for the street. Do they think that World Superbike's going to take the same change and all the other manufacturers and KTM is just trying to get ahead of it? I don't know. We'll leave it up to you guys. Let us know down in the comments.
That's a
Anything could
nice
happen.
transition. Something I want to bring up. Did you see? I think I forwarded you the Instagram post. Did you see R1
Forced to discontinue. Yeah.
forced to discontinue shipments because they're in Volkswagen problems? They have lied about their emissions testing, allegedly.
Yep. By the Japanese government, they can't ship out to other countries.
The reason I wanted to bring that up is because we all know the R1's been discontinued, so it's only around for a limited time anyway at this point. The rumor I've heard from the Moto America side, which I just seen a story today that it was going to affect potentially the MotoGP side. I don't know why, but they were going to come out. The plan is to come out with a limited edition, like an anniversary edition, maybe like a going away present R1 that's got all sorts of aero on it.
Okay. Interesting.
Because it has to be homologated so that you can race in World Superbike. And if you look at the Yamahas in World Superbike, they don't have hardly any aero on them compared to the other bikes. So the rumor was Yamaha was going to unleash this thing with fins and spoilers and all kinds of stuff to help out their World Superbike program. I wonder how that, I don't know the answer, but I wonder how that affects now all of a sudden that got hit.
Yeah.
That might put a kibosh on some of those plans.
Yeah, the only, the weirdest part to me about that, it was just an Instagram post that you sent me, but the weirdest part was that Japan would say like, "Hey, no." So I'm like, if the Yamahas hit the American market and the American market says no, these are unfit, and says no more shipping to America, okay. But if it fits in Europe and it fits in Australia and it fits, everywhere else,
Why not?
so how bad was it that the Japanese government was like, no, we're not letting that hit the world? Like,
I knew they were cheating. Those
yeah,
R1s.
you will not do it again. Anyway, yeah, we're in a hard and crazy time where the motorcycle world is making a massive shift, and unfortunately, it seems like a down step. We hit a peak. And if you're not watching motorcycle racing yet, watch it right now. You get a couple more years in MotoGP, and I'd say less than a decade in Moto America, World Superbike, British, Australia, all the superbikes. I'd say less than a decade, and that's just my guess, my estimate. But within the next 5 to 10 years, everything's just gonna kind of come down. Not that it'll die off as a sport, but the crazy
It could get
speed,
better in other ways.
it
It's
could.
just traditionally, if you like leader bikes and that's what you want to watch, that stuff's dying. If you like
Yeah.
high revving, 4-cylinder engines, it's dying.
Yep, we've definitely hit the end of an era. We've hit the peak. I'm hoping we haven't hit the peak yet. We've got till 2027, and KTM keeps trying to push that window. Italy's actually a great place to do that. So let's see how far we can push it next year. That's what I'm hoping for. We get a couple more speed records in MotoGP before we kick off the big dogs and head back down. Anyway, that definitely closes out MotoGP for this week. We kind of already did. You were talking about the Yamaha R1. You were talking about Moto America. Where were
And
we last week with Moto America?
Road America.
Yeah, and
And it was crazy.
it was wet, is what it was.
It was raining on Saturday. We had super bikes, of course, baggers on track. Super Sport was on track. Build Train Race, Royal Enfield was on track. Unfortunately, the biggest takeaway, I think the biggest takeaway from the weekend, there was great racing. I think the I think the biggest takeaway was, I mean, we had some highlights. We had a super sport race that was a photo finish between
I did see
between
that.
three bikes. It was like point zero zero. It was like a tenth of a second.
Yeah, like I mean, if you've seen the Pixar movie Cars, where they show the pictures from above and the side and all these different angles, and they're watching to see who to actually hit the finish line first. You see pictures of this finish, and you're like, whoa, because it is
It was awesome.
guaranteed they were going over that for at least half a second.
Yeah, that was awesome. So I mean, that would have been a big highlight from the weekend. The Josh Herron won the second race by a ridiculous margin.
Yeah, I remember seeing the interview on that. Just to pull
He
up
said
the
he's got the same problem I got. He thought there was a bike parked on his ass the whole time, but there wasn't.
a 9 second difference between him and second place. And to put it in perspective, so Bobby Fong came in second, 9.058 behind him and Josh. Third place, JD Beach, 9.384. Fourth place, Lori Spaz, 9.818. So all of those guys, second, third, and fourth, are all stacked right on top of each other. There's Josh freaking gone, which makes me real happy inside. I love Josh. Josh is great.
But unfortunately, I think the biggest takeaway from the whole weekend was injuries, was crashes. A lot of those were caused by the weather
Yep.
or were related to the weather, but it was just a miserable weekend for crashing. I heard a lot of talk about the asphalt, the situation that it's in, how it handles the rain. A lot of the riders talking about how it was not rain worthy, shouldn't have been racing in the rain on that surface.
I know. I definitely saw some videos of like. I mean, this is Moto America, and you get there's a big difference between a unconditioned rain rider and a conditioned rain rider. I think those are the best words I can use. And someone that's racing Moto America and hits a rain race should have some sort of conditioning to it. And some of the videos I saw showed mistakes, for lack of a better term, whether or not they were actually mistakes by the riders. I'm not going to throw them on the riders because of the latter that you mentioned, but mistakes that were made or mess ups that happened or whatever it was, like a lot of those were very off.
Right. So we had at least three different riders crash into a wall
Mm-hmm.
on
Seen those.
Saturday that had hay bales in front of it, straw bales. And I'm not trying to throw any stones. That's not the problem. I mean, it seems like that wall has never been. It's like never been hit before. It's
Yeah.
not. It's not somewhere people would hit, but that was some of the speculation, is that the cars that run around that track had kind of worked the asphalt down, the new asphalt in a spot there that was causing problems for motorcycles. But you had people banging off that wall, and I'm glad they did it. You had to do it, but air fence showed up the second day,
Mm.
and it just becomes a bad look. Like, why didn't you have the air fence there on the first day? But on the other hand, they recognized the problem and they fixed it overnight. So maybe kudos are in order. I don't know, but it was unfortunate, the amount of people that were banging off that wall, and there was some
Yeah.
scary accidents.
I remember seeing that, the wall, seeing a rider hit a wall these days is pretty, yeah, it's not
Not that
very
cool.
often. And when you're sliding across the asphalt in the rain is slippery, which includes when you're sliding across it after wrecking a bike. It's not just like the bike, it's you. So,
Yeah, and I have to take the opportunity to say that the caveat here: Michaela Moore was injured in a Twins Cup race, I believe. She's the points leader for the Built Train race.
mhm.
So pull up the results for.
Yeah, Michaela Moore race 1. I've got a DNF for Twins Cup. The Bellissimo Moto Twins Cup is important. Sponsors are important. We got to be careful about those.
So the caveat is that she was out, but we had two USBA members up there battling. Pull the results up for those two races, will you?
So I got race 2, race 1, Twins Cup.
No, BTR, sorry.
BTR. Got it. Moto America is kind of funny with their
I know.
results.
It's a lot of clicks.
It's so I will say for anyone watching on the computer, it's not too bad. On your phone, it's like woof, it gets a little rough. Who are we looking for? All these people happen to ride for the same team.
Race 1.
Race
What's
one. Okay.
top 3 in race 1?
All right. Cassie Creer first. Emma Betters in second. And Camille Conrad
And is Aubrey in
third.
4th?
Aubrey is down in fifth.
Okay.
Aubrey. Yep. Number
Yeah.
37.
Uh, so
I don't want to mess it up. I apologize. I just
so
it's just so
interesting
small.
fact, I just have to give them a shout out. First place and 5th place are USBA alumni.
Okay. Hell
They're
yeah.
both out club racing at USBA every race. And then if you go to race 2,
Mm-hmm.
the USBA alumni took 1 and 2.
Yep. So you said Aubrey and Cassie, right?
Yep.
2 and 3. But yeah, Michaela Moore still took first. You got Aubrey in second, Cassie down at third.
Yeah. So that was pretty cool. Both from Utah.
Yeah.
Cool for me.
Yeah, no, that's awesome. That's awesome. The Build Train Race program is, I want some comments on it. We had Lauren Prince on here. We talked about it quite a bit. We had Jen on here last week. Jenny up in Washington. I think it's an awesome program. I think there's parts of it that are interesting. Anyway, yeah, we don't need to dwell on Build Train Race. The key is that just because you're a woman doesn't mean you can't ride motorcycles and doesn't mean you can't race them. And I think the real person to look at for that would be Kayla Yakov. I think, in my opinion, at least. And even if not, Mallory Dobbs. I do have to give a shout out to Mallory Dobbs over there representing America in the brand new World Women's Superbike Series. I don't know exactly what they're calling that, to be honest, and I apologize for that, but it's awesome to have an American over there already. So
I just had a torrential thunderstorm hitting.
no, I'm supposed to get that. Probably the same one, but we're not supposed to get it till midnight. So
It's like lightning, and then you're starting to glitch.
oh, one of those. That's good. If this episode gets cut short, it's because the weatherman came down and said, "Nah."
And we hadn't talked about weather until then, huh?
That's
So
true. We were behind on the
all right.
weather.
So
Oh, anyway, that's Moto America, I think. Unless you wanted to talk about one of the big, and we're back.
and we're back. It's still thundering. It's still lightning, but we're back.
Yeah, the Weather Channel continues. I was gonna ask you. I think that kind of closed up Moto America. Maybe we get into Kohl's non-motocross minute. And I just wasn't sure if you wanted to cover. Anyway, the wrecks that Kohl was talking about. There were several. You go check on your own personal riders. I don't want to get into the details because I don't have them all, but there were a couple guys that had some pretty big falls this past weekend, if I remember right.
Gotta at least say, Cam Bobier broke his freaking heel off.
Yeah.
Hayden Gillum
Mm-hmm.
was a scary moment because he didn't look like he knew where he was when he took his helmet off. Same wall. Sean Dylan Kelly had a hard hit in the rain. What's the smirk for?
Nothing. It's yeah.
I mean, a lot of big name riders. There was a lot of hits out there, kind of really messed things up, and it made Sunday even more surprising though because I just thought it would be the Jake Gagne show on Sunday, and it was not. It was the Josh Herron show.
Yep. Which I know, Cole and I are both Josh Herron fans. I don't know how you cannot be a Josh Herron fan, to be honest with you. I love Josh.
There's people that aren't.
I don't know why. I have no idea why. Yeah, he's such a great guy. But it's nice to see him win. So yeah. Hope going out for Cam Bobier. I know he's got a substitute rider in at least for a little bit. So
yeah, since we had the luxury of filming this when we did, I mean, we can talk about that a little bit. His fill-in rider is Pull it up because I forgot his name.
I wasn't ready.
Sorry. But he's coming off the Indian Bagger. He's coming off the Indian Bagger, and he is a multiple-time Australian Superbike champion. So I think it's a good choice for fill-in rider at this moment in time.
Yeah, Troy Herfoss.
Yep. It'll be interesting to see what he can do. He's got experience riding those bikes. He's not, going from a bagger to a sport bike and trying to figure it out. He's
right. Well, and my biggest question there is he's the point leader for the baggers right now. So
yeah,
will he? Because the baggers they're racing in Brainerd, correct?
they should be.
Yep. Event information: Superbike, Super Sport, Twins Cup, Stock 1000, Junior Cup, and King of the Baggers. So, yeah, I mean, it just puts obviously his main focus should stick to the championship he's in, that he's leading at the moment, which is the baggers. But kind of puts a little bit more work for his weekend, running not only a bagger race but a Superbike race.
Yeah,
and qualifying
so,
practice.
Before we move off the Moto America thing, I just want to take this opportunity to big shout out to all our friends in the paddock that are racing in Brainerd this weekend. Good luck, boys, all of you.
Yeah,
we're rooting for you. Excited to watch. Unfortunately, I can't be there, but very excited to see what you guys can do. Got big hopes, big dreams. Let's go, boys.
Yeah, you guys go get it. We'll be watching from home, cheering you on, and we'll be here to cover it next week. Looking forward to it, 100%. So that is Moto America. We've covered Moto America. We've covered MotoGP. We've told you how slow the bikes are going to get over the next few years. But in the meantime, bikes are fast. Bikes can go fast. Bikes go up. Bikes go down. Rain goes up. Rain comes down. What stories?
I hate the rain.
What stories do we have from the working class customs side of the household?
So I would like to share my own personal rider tip this week.
Okay. What do you got?
And this needs to be a little bit solemn because I'm serious. I'm not that serious of a guy, but I am serious. I learned a lesson this past week.
Do we need solemn music put in, or
maybe? Should we hesitate? Have the editor put that in?
Music. Set the tone.
Something. Whatever's decided there. So, solemnly, this lesson I learned. I just want to say, this sport that we do, we all know this. We all know this. We all know it in our heart. We know it every time we get on a track. Certain incidences have happened recently and continually happen all the time that remind us. Yet, we have this "it can't happen to us" mentality. We have this free-spirited, I don't know what, thing about us. And I had to get reminded this week this. And my rider tip is as follows. No matter how long you've been doing this, no matter how many times you go out on the track, no matter how much fun you're having with your friends, if something feels off, if something is not right, take it serious. We're not playing out there. We're playing, but we're not playing. Whether it's a track day, whether it's race day, please just don't get nonchalant about things. That's my rider tip, and I'll give you the story to go along with it. So I had and this is, I don't want to air this.
Yeah.
I don't want to air this because it's embarrassing. It's embarrassing.
Embarrassing is the wrong word. It's not cool, but.
So I had the opportunity to ride the Ridge Monday.
Yep. Which, yeah, link to last week's episode will be up here. I don't know if that's what you're talking about, but I think Jenny mentioned the words soaker.
Atmospheric river is what she mentioned.
Yeah. Did that rain true? Rain true? LOL. Uh-huh.
Yeah. Been there, done that. The atmospheric river has been completed. Thank you, Washington. My gosh. So I've got about as much rain riding as I would ever like to ever have to do again in my life. Some people like it, some people don't. I'm in the latter category.
Hmm.
You know? By the end of the day, it was just a track day. By the end of the day, I was putting together some decent times. I got this rain figured out, right? Running Dunlop rain slicks. What?
Well, the whole point of a slick is that there's no tread. So saying Dunlop rain slicks doesn't really make much sense now, does it?
They're still a slick. They're just rains.
No, they're Dunlop rain tires or rain race tires. I don't know. You guys let us know in the comments, but I'm pretty sure they're not called Dunlop rain slicks because the whole point of a slick is that it's pure rubber all the way around. It's slick.
Let's see
I.e.,
what
i.e.,
the
in the
people
in the
say.
slick rain, it wouldn't work.
Because i.e. they're slicker than snot. But hey,
All right, yeah, let us know. I won't even look it up. I'm not gonna Google it. I could Google it right now to see if it's wrong. But you guys let us know in the comments. We'll wait till next week to hash it out.
so we got like, I don't know, 14 inches of rain in a 12-hour period, let's call it.
Right. Okay.
A lot of rain.
Was that
Oh
a
my
was it
God.
a was it a wet rain or a dry rain?
It was a wet rain.
Okay. All right. Just making sure.
My God, man. I've been to the Ridge before. It's
Mhm.
no longer my favorite track, Easton. I'm out. So, I mean, it's a great track. We all know it. It's beautiful. But my God, the 2 days a year that it actually has good weather to ride on. I think I've probably been to the Ridge. That was my fourth or fifth time at least.
Mhm.
And it's my third time with rain. Third time that it was rain, like full rain.
Yeah.
Anyway, we were forced to run in the rain all day. At times, it was raining so hard that coming down the carousel or whatever they call it,
6.
coming down the elevation drop on the back at the end,
Oh, yeah, the complex.
the complex,
Mhm.
rivers running. It is an uneasy feeling. I don't care what tires you have on, trying to push for lap times when there's rapids.
Whitewater rafting on your
A lot of
BMW
water.
S1000 double R.
Yes, a lot of water. We ran without the chicane.
Okay.
Um,
Interesting.
Side note, since we talked about it last week and they track time pretty much said they always run it,
Mhm.
we were not running it. So 150, 160 miles an hour on the straight with puddles.
Yeah. Well, and
Little
just
scary.
to clear that up, I know we mentioned last week we weren't. You were with the what Moto Vixens?
Moto Vixen. So no chicane, but at times, even when it was dry, once you get to the bridge, there's standing water.
Mhm.
Even when the rain was less than other times, there was still puddles. So you're at top speed, maybe not top speed, but you're at your chosen top speed,
Yeah.
uh, going through standing water. It's a little sketchy.
Yeah, I can imagine.
At the end of so it started towards the afternoon, and people from Washington probably know this. They can laugh at me, whatever, but the sun would poke out. Like in the morning until lunch, it just rained solid. There was no break.
Mhm.
But after lunch, it got to a bit where there would be like 30 minutes of partial sunshine, and then it would just hammer down on the rain again.
Hmm.
So early on, since there wasn't a lot of people willing to ride in it, it was that bad. So they came around first thing and they said, track days are traditionally 3 groups.
Yep.
Right from the riders' meeting in the morning, they told us fast, slow. We're only doing 2 groups. After the very first session, probably, they came by and said, just ride whenever you want. Track is yours. Do whatever you want, because nobody wanted to ride in that much rain.
Yeah. So as long as the
So,
flag's green, go
yeah.
for it.
So we did, and it actually got shut down a couple times for lightning during the day.
Hmm.
I mean, it was bad weather, man. It was bad. But we rode. We drove a long ways to ride. So we were riding, and in the afternoon, when you would get these little sun pockets,
Mhm.
at one point there was a drying line on the track for just a minute. Like there was some little sections of it was starting to dry out, and you could find some dry patches on the track, and then it would torrential downpour again. So since we weren't doing groups and we could just time it, We
Yeah.
would literally watch. Me and some of the other guys that were there, we were watching the horizon, and we would
Right.
say, "There's sun coming. It's raining right now, but let's get out there now and start turning laps." And the sun will pop out while we're on track. We'll get a little bit of that good weather. Good weather. We'll get a little bit of that break in the torrential downpour at least, and we'll run it. So me and one of the other guys that were there, we started doing like full race distances. Man, we were going out there like 20 laps.
Yeah. Okay.
Like so, and that was kind of cool just to see, rain or not. It was fun to just go out there and come back, and you'd done 20 laps, and it's awesome. So we kind of timed it. It was getting late in the day, and we timed it out, and we got on track right before the sun came out. We started turning laps, and it was going to be another 20 lap session.
Mm-hmm.
And I think I got to like 22 laps, and my fuel light came on. And I had put some gas in it, not necessarily topped it off, but I had put gas in before it went out. My fuel light saying, drive to the nearest gas station. But I was having fun for the first, like real fun for the first time.
All day. Yeah.
Yeah, making me remember why I love that track.
Mm-hmm.
And I drove back down into the paddock, and the gentleman that I was chasing around and running around with doing laps, he was already parked. And I said, "What are you doing?" He said, "You know what? I almost high-sided myself to the moon. I'm done." He says, "It's been a great day. I'm putting the bike in the trailer, and we're good. Everything's great." I said, "Cool. Can you put some gas in my bike?" Like, I'm not getting off of it. And he goes, "You're going out again?" And I said, "Yeah." Mistake number one. I said, "One more time."
Yeah. All right. I mean, I don't know that I'd call that a mistake, but I'm enjoying the story, so we'll give it to you.
Mistake number one. Mistake number two, and the reason for my rider tip. Again, as I said, don't ever not take yourself serious enough. What you're doing is important, and what you're doing is dangerous.
Mm-hmm.
We put some gas in the bike, and I look down, and I'm on my BMW, my 22. The dynamic traction control is a big square box on the screen.
Mm-hmm.
And, I run it anywhere from -3 to +2 on a dry day, depending on my tire and where it's at. And I adjust it all the time during a race. As my tires are wearing out, I might turn it up a little bit more if I start sliding around too much. So I like to think that I'm familiar with the button, right?
Yep.
And I'm not running any of the factory BMW buttons anymore. I have race pod buttons on both sides.
Mm-hmm.
But I look down, and this box that's normally there that tells me, I've been running it at +5 all day because of the rain. And I had built me a race. For those that are familiar with BMW, you got race pro mode 1, 2, 3. I had worked a lot all day long on getting race pro mode 3 set up so that I show up at another track and it's raining. I already got a nice baseline built.
Yeah, something that like this has experience in the rain. We can at least start here.
Yep. So I'd been working on that all day. Everything was good. We put the gas in the bike, and I was just kind of messing around with the buttons while we were putting gas in the bike. And I started the bike back up. I pull out, and I notice there's no box that says DTS. It's usually like a 1 inch by 1 inch box on that bike.
Mm-hmm.
It wasn't there. And I said, well, that's weird. And I started heading back to the track, and I was sitting there looking at it thinking, that's really weird, but whatever. And I thought enough to actually stop the bike, shut the bike off. I still have a key. I cycled the key, turned it back on, made sure it was in Race Pro Mode 3. No box. But those buttons, man, there's 1,000 buttons on that thing. Right? And there's even a function button in the middle that you hit that button and it makes all the buttons do something different.
Yeah.
So I was just sitting there like, whatever, I'm running out of time. I think I had 11 minutes before it closed, and I wanted to get a couple more laps.
Okay.
It's like literally 11 minutes before the track day closes.
Mm-hmm.
I'm going to go do a couple more laps. So I go out there, and it's on my mind, but I did the first lap kind of chill, and it was fine. And then I'm going to go for the world speed record, right, on lap 2. So I came down to the straight, slammed the hammer down, went into corner 1, no problem. Went up to 2 and completely lost the back end of that bike. Just lost it. And everything I could do to gather that thing back up, I somehow picked it back up from 2, but you're immediately so for those that don't know, 2 is a right hand. Without the chicane, it's 2. It's different with the chicane, but with no chicane, corner 2 is a right. I gathered it up, and by the time I got it gathered up, I was already to turn 3. So turn 3 is now a left hand. I can either go straight because I just come through some stuff, right? I could either go straight or commit to turn 3.
Yeah.
You checking the track map?
Yeah, turn 2 is definitely not a right, but
So
turn 1's a big old left. Turn 2 is the rest of that left. Turn 3 is the first right in the track as you go up the
okay,
hill.
top of the hill. So 3, I lost it.
Okay.
But by the time I had gathered it up, they had the cones out. The Ken Hill cones were out, right?
Yep.
By the time I had gathered it back up, I'm back on the gas and it's turn in time. So I don't know what happened there, right? But I'm in the heat of the moment. I decided to go for the left. I went for the left and lost it the same. It just completely lost it again.
Yeah.
The back end slides around, caught traction, high-sided me to the moon. To the moon. What does that guy on Toy Story say? To the moon? To the moon!
Sure. That. Yeah.
All I know is I guarantee my ass was above my head because I still had a hold of the handlebars and they were just doing this underneath me. And I felt the bike go away underneath me. And I did the fetal tuck and I hit the asphalt really, really freaking hard.
Oh man, so you came down on pavement then also, not the dirt.
On the pavement.
Because wet dirt, I mean, with that much rain, the dirt shouldn't have been too bad.
Should have just lawn darted. Should have just stuck. Boink.
But
Oh no, man! It was full asphalt, and I had my hands pulled up to my face, like my elbows pulled in, fetal position going through the air. And when I landed, I don't want to give too much away on injuries because I got people listening that I plan on racing here in a couple weeks. I'll be ready for you guys, just so you know. But yeah, I slid, rolled to the grass, and because of an incident on Saturday I won't get into, I fully expected the motorcycle to run over me. Like it was just, I was ahead of the motorcycle, so I was waiting for it to slam into me. And so as I was rolling, I can tell you I rolled exactly 3 times because I counted the motorcycle every time. I was watching for it to hit me. And so I was like, there it is, there it is, there it is. Anyway, to be honest, the bike came through it better than I did. But that was a hard enough hit that I'm still feeling plenty of residuals from. Like I said, we won't get into all that because I'm 100% healthy again.
Yeah.
The moral of the story is I take the bike home, right? I think about it. It's a 13-hour drive for me. Yep. So for 13 hours, like when the adrenaline, I drove the bike back, which was a funny thing. You'll love this. I forget I haven't told you this story yet. You will love this. The first thought in my mind, it's not my first crash. The first thought in my mind is to give a thumbs up to the tower so the ambulance doesn't have to come get me, right?
Right.
Oh my gosh, man. I was on my knees. I got to my knees with my face, my helmet's still on, right? My face is buried in the grass. Like I cannot lift my head. And I'm sitting there. The only thought going through my head is give the tower a thumbs up. And I can't breathe. I can't move from that position. I can't do anything. I'm trying to get my breath.
Sorry, it's not funny, but it's kind of.
And I just stuck my hand in the air and pointed in the direction I thought the tower was in, giving him a thumbs up. I was not okay.
Dude, you were probably pointing straight down to the ground like.
I may very well have been. But I gave him the thumbs up, and then it took me a minute after that, but I was able to stand up. And, if I crash there, somebody else can crash there because since I gave him the thumbs up, it was just a yellow flag. There were still bikes going around. So
Right.
I walked away. I walked away, didn't even go over to my bike. I paid enough attention to know that it had shut off on its own.
Mhm.
But I walked away just trying to get my wits about me. I may or may not have hit my head fairly good as well. I walked away. When I started getting my wits back about me, I by then a supermoto bike pulled up, one of the track people.
Mhm.
He pulled up, and it was the funniest thing, man. I don't want to get nobody in trouble. I'm not complaining. I appreciated it, but I thought you would find this comical. He comes up to me. He walks up to me and says, "Are you okay?" I said, "Yeah." He looks me in the eyes, which is a smart thing for him to do. He
Mhm.
looks me in the eyes, and I'm trying as hard as I can to look normal. Like I'm in pain. I'm not right. I'm not necessarily right,
Right.
but I'm trying to. It's like when you're, drunk trying to tell somebody you're not.
Yeah.
Well, it's kind of that scenario. So I'm like, "Yeah, I'm good." And he's like, "You sure everything's good?" "I'm good, man. I'm good." And he goes, "Okay, you want to drive your bike back?" I haven't even been to the bike yet. I don't know if there's a handlebar on it. I don't know anything, right?
Yeah.
And I mean, it's still 20 feet away from me. I haven't
Mhm.
walked over to it yet. And he goes, "You want to drive your bike back?" And I said, "Can I?" And he says, "Yeah, if you're good." And I said, "Hell yeah, I'm good. I don't want it on the crash cart. Of course I want to drive it back, right?"
Yeah.
So I went over there and tried picking it up, and that was not happening. I mean,
Yeah.
I'm one tough son of a bee, and when I went to lift it up, those parts of me were not working anymore.
Yeah.
So he came over and helped me. He
Mhm.
stood it up. I don't know that he would have looked at it, but because he helped me stand it up, he did. I threw a leg over it and sat on it, and he kind of looked it over, or whatever. And I went to start it, and he goes, "Hold on, I got to take your sticker."
The tech sticker.
He removed my tech sticker right
You
out there on the track. It was the
you s
last session of the day, no time left,
Yeah,
but
you
he
said
took
when you
my
went out there
sticker.
was 11 minutes left. You
He
had
took my
wrecked.
damn sticker. So
Uh,
anyway, it fired up, and there's it's worse for the wear for sure, as you can imagine, but she'll be fine. The bike, she took it better than I did,
mhm.
but I drove it back. I put a leg out and an arm out every once in a while, and I was going like 15 miles an hour around, bikes passing me. I I drove it back, and the adrenaline's still there, of course.
Yeah.
So I drove it back and was fine. I got it back to the paddock or whatever, and got the stares of disapproval, and got off the bike, and that's when the adrenaline started to wear out, and you realize maybe just how bad you got clipped.
Yeah.
And thank God there was some people there to load the trailer because I wasn't going to be any good to them.
Right.
And anyway, on the 13-hour drive home, that ended up taking considerably longer than that because of the inability to sit in a truck seat for that amount of time anymore.
Mhm.
The I was just thinking about, I didn't that's that 1 inch by 1 inch square that tells me where my traction control is set. It wasn't there. Why wasn't it there? I mean, it's always there, I think. Why was it off? And I thought about it all the way home.
Yeah.
But we really just loaded the bike and didn't pay attention, right?
Right.
When I got home, I pulled it off, cycled the key. It's not there. And I looked, and I had literally, there's a function button that changes what those buttons do. I
Mhm.
had not hit the function button when I was trying to adjust something, and I had shut the traction control 100% off. 100%. And I had even stopped, like kick yourself in the butt, right? I had
Yeah.
I had stopped and shut the bike off. I could have easily turned it back on if I would have not been so nonchalant. It was important. Could have killed me. Could have done, I mean, thank God it didn't do worse, right? I mean, things happen, and I'm not trying to be all make it melodramatic. I'm just saying we need to take the sport serious.
Yeah.
And if there's something stupid like that, by God, take the time to stop and fix it. Especially, it wasn't even a race situation. It's just screwing around.
Yeah. Well, and even I mean, no offense, I'm not trying to put
Oh,
to
you can. I
shame
deserve it.
what you're doing or anything like that, but I mean, you're a club racer. You're paying for it. You're not getting paid for it. And if you were getting paid for it, it would have been a team putting that bike together, not yourself. So, yeah, I mean, it's it is kind of nuts. It's definitely safer to ride a bike on the track than the road, but it's not just safe inherently. when you
Well,
when you sit there and think about it. I mean, I'd take it over bull riding any day of the week, but you can't set traction control on a bull and you can on a motorcycle. So if you have it available, you might as well use it. If you look down, it's not available anymore, but you're used to having it, you should probably look into it.
yeah. Well, I'll just something else to add to that though is it was a track day, and we all constantly say that track days are for fun. They're not for whatever, right?
Yep.
That's not true. That's not entirely true. Meaning, wait until you start club racing, and then tell me. When you're in the A group, 90% of the people that are in the A group at a track day are absolutely using that as a test. So they're on it. I
Right.
mean, they're out there trying to be on it. They're not running. They're not there for fun to hang out with friends and sandwiches. They're getting ready for something. Maybe not 90%, but a big portion of them are out there trying to. They are trying to set a lap time. They're trying to, and it's very serious to them.
Right. Yeah, absolutely. There's nothing wrong with that. But, to your point, one, if everything's gone great and someone else mentions like, "Nah, it went great. Day's almost over, might as well call it." Like you said, mistake number 1. I don't fault you at all for going back out. 11 minutes at the ridge, I don't know. That does seem pushing it a little bit, but whatever. But yeah, I mean, if you feel that something's off and then you look down and there is something off, quite literally in this case, but whatever it might be, take that hunch. Worst case scenario, you pull in, you miss 10 minutes of a track day and everything was perfectly fine with the bike. Oh no. But the day you don't listen to that is the day that you high side and things go really well, or maybe the day that you high side and things don't go really well, and you owe yourself a new bike and a new who knows whatever else. So to
But
to Cole's point, it's a real sport, very dangerous sport, one of the more dangerous in the world, arguably. So take it serious when it needs to be.
yeah, well, I had a lot of time to think on the way home, and I thought about all the times that never me, of course, but all the times that you're hanging out on a track day and somebody's like, "Oh, this is loose" or whatever, I'll fix it next round,
Yeah.
or and it just made me think about that. Like, yeah, I'll figure out why my traction control wasn't showing on the next round, and look what that cost me. Could have been way worse. Could have been way worse.
Yep.
And so, as Archer would say, on that, or no, uh, as the Grand Tour would say, on
The
that
Grand Tour.
depressing note.
It's time to end. No, on a real note though, that sixth sense, the whatever, the gut feeling, all those things, especially when you start racing, those mean a lot. Listen to them. Take heed. Take care of your bikes. Take care of yourselves. This sport is dangerous. We enjoy it a lot. I don't want to see it going anywhere. So the more we can do to take care of ourselves, keep the significant others and the officials and the legals and whoever else is out there watching, keep them all happy. More likely we are to be able to keep doing it. So take those words. We'll look forward to a very exciting week out of Brainerd, Moto America. I think that's all we got coming for you next week, and then the week after that we'll get some MotoGP going again.
We didn't get into it today, but just a spoiler for next week. There is a World Superbike race, I'm pretty sure.
Yeah.
And Toprak just set all the world records on his BMW in testing.
But that's because the Yamaha got pulled by Japan and doesn't exist anymore.
Oh, come on. That's not why.
Anyway, Brainerd, some World Superbike and maybe a little bit of motorcycle riding from North Carolina. We'll come at you next week. We appreciate everyone listening and watching. Leave us those comments down below. Answer our questions. We'll hash them out next week when we get some answers from you guys. I forget. Brain slicks. Is that a thing or is it not? Let us know down in the comments. Thanks again for listening and watching. We'll see you all next week.
Yeah. Thanks, everybody. We'll see you next time.